She missed her interview to help a stranger, not knowing he was a millionaire. She was 10 minutes away from changing her life when she saw him fall, a stranger clutching his chest, his face gray with pain. And in that split second, she had to choose. The interview that could save her future, or the man dying in front of her. Welcome back, my lovelies. Get ready for a story that will leave you speechless and make you believe in the power of destiny. Stay with me until the very end, because this story will restore your faith in humanity. Remember to hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and comment your thoughts throughout the story. Your engagement helps us bring you more incredible narratives. Zara Bennett's alarm went off at 5:43 a.m., but she was already awake. She'd been staring at the ceiling for the past hour, her stomach twisted in knots of anxiety and hope. Today was the day. The interview. The one that could finally change everything. She rolled out of the narrow twin bed, the same one she'd slept in since childhood, and dressed carefully in the only professional outfit she owned. Black slacks from the thrift store, pressed until the creases were sharp. A white blouse she'd splurged on last month, eating ramen for a week to afford it. Modest heels that pinched her toes but looked expensive if you didn't look too close. In the mirror, she practiced her smile. Professional. Confident. Not desperate. Even though she was. The apartment she shared with her mother and younger brother was quiet this early. Her mother worked the night shift at the hospital. Housekeeping, not nursing, despite having more medical knowledge than half the staff. Her brother, Marcus, was still asleep, his basketball scholarship paperwork spread across the kitchen table. Zara made coffee with hands that trembled slightly. This interview was for an executive assistant position at Ashford Enterprises, one of the biggest real estate development companies in Atlanta. The pay was more than she'd ever made. The benefits included health insurance, dental, a 401k, things normal people took for granted, things her family had never had. She'd applied on a whim 3 months ago, never expecting to hear back. But they'd called. They'd been impressed with her cover letter, her references from the coffee shop where she'd worked her way up to assistant manager, her associate's degree she'd earned online while working full-time. This was her shot. Her one shot. Please, she whispered to her reflection. Please let this work. She left the apartment at 6:47 a.m., giving herself 2 hours for a commute that should take 45 minutes. But the bus was unreliable, and she couldn't afford to be late. Not today. Not when everything depended on the next 2 hours. Daniel Ashford's morning started at 5 a.m. sharp, the way it had every day for the past decade. Workout. Shower. Coffee while reviewing the day's schedule. In the car by 7 o'clock, headed to the office by 7:15. Routine. Control. Success. At 34, he'd built Ashford Enterprises into a powerhouse, $300 million in annual revenue, developments in 12 states, a reputation for innovation and integrity. He'd done it through discipline, through never taking shortcuts, through working harder than everyone around him. He'd also done it alone. His assistant, Margaret, had been with him for 8 years. She knew his schedule better than he did, anticipated his needs before he voiced them, ran his professional life with ruthless efficiency. But yesterday she'd given her notice. Her husband was being transferred to Seattle. She was leaving in 2 weeks. I've lined up candidates, she'd said, handing him a folder of resumes. All excellent. You'll find someone. But Daniel didn't want someone. He wanted Margaret. Because finding people you could trust, really trust, was harder than building an empire. This morning, he had back-to-back interviews. 7 candidates, all impeccably qualified. All saying exactly what they thought he wanted to hear. He hated interviewing. His driver pulled up to the Ashford Enterprises building at 7:12 a.m., 3 minutes early as always. Daniel stepped out, briefcase in hand, already mentally preparing for the day ahead. That's when the pain hit. Sharp. Sudden. Like someone had driven a knife into his chest and twisted. Daniel stumbled, his briefcase falling from his hand. He reached for the car door, missed, and felt his knees give out. The sidewalk rushed up to meet him. No, he thought distantly. Not now. Not like this. The pain intensified, radiating down his left arm. His vision blurred at the edges. Somewhere far away, he heard his driver shouting, felt hands on his shoulders. But mostly he felt the pain, and the terrifying realization that he might be dying on a sidewalk in downtown Atlanta, surrounded by strangers who would step over his body to get to work on time. The bus was running late. Of course it was. Zara checked her phone for the 14th time. 8:23 a.m. Her interview was at 9 o'clock. She still had to transfer to the Red Line, then walk 4 blocks to the Ashford building. She could still make it. Barely. Come on, she muttered under her breath, willing the bus to move faster through morning traffic. When it finally reached her stop, she practically ran off, her cheap heels clicking against the pavement. The train station was 2 blocks away. Her phone said 8:31. She had 29 minutes. She could do this. Zara rounded the corner onto Peachtree Street and immediately registered the commotion ahead. A small crowd had formed on the sidewalk. Someone was on the ground. A black town car was parked at an angle, hazards flashing. She should keep walking. Should stay focused. But as she got closer, she saw him. A man in an expensive suit, gray-faced and gasping, clutching his chest. The driver was on the phone, panicked. The crowd was mostly just standing there, watching, filming on their phones. No one was helping. Zara's feet stopped moving. She looked at her phone. 8:33, 27 minutes. She looked at the man. He was conscious but barely, his eyes unfocused with pain. Heart attack, her brain supplied. Her mother had trained her in basic first aid years ago, had made her memorize the signs. He's having a heart attack, and no one's doing anything. 26 minutes until her interview. 26 minutes until she could change her entire life. But this man would be dead in less than that if someone didn't act. Zara made her choice. She pushed through the crowd and dropped to her knees beside him, ruining her pressed slacks on the dirty sidewalk. Sir? Sir, can you hear me? She checked his pulse, rapid, thready. Someone call 911. Already called, the driver said, his voice shaking. They're on their way. How long ago? 3 minutes. Call again. Tell them it's a heart attack. He needs immediate response. Zara loosened the man's tie, unbuttoned his collar. Sir, I need you to stay with me. Keep your eyes open. Help is coming. His eyes found hers, blue, pain-filled, but aware. Can't breathe. He gasped. I know. Try to stay calm. Slow breaths if you can. She elevated his head slightly with her purse. What's your name? Daniel. Okay, Daniel. I'm Zara. You're going to be okay. Do you have any medications? Aspirin. The driver thrust a bottle at her. She shook out a tablet, helped Daniel get it under his tongue. Chew it if you can, she instructed. It'll help. The crowd had grown, but no one else stepped forward. They just watched, voyeuristic and useless. Zara held Daniel's hand and checked her phone. 8:41 a.m. 19 minutes. The ambulance sirens wailed in the distance, growing closer. 16 minutes. The paramedics arrived, efficient and professional. They took over, asking questions. Zara gave them everything she knew, stepped back to give them room. 8:51 a.m. 9 minutes. She couldn't make it. Even if she ran the whole way, even if everything went perfectly, she couldn't make it. Her one shot. Gone. Because she'd stopped to help a stranger. Zara watched them load Daniel into the ambulance, watched the doors close, watched it pull away with lights and sirens. Then she sank onto a bench and let herself cry. Have you ever had to choose between doing the right thing and doing what's best for you? Have you ever sacrificed something important to help a stranger? What would you have done in Zara's situation? Drop your thoughts below. This story is about to get even more emotional. If you've made it this far into the story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Your support helps us keep bringing you more heartwarming stories like this one. Zara sat on that bench for 20 minutes before she could move. She'd stopped crying after the first 5, but the weight of what she'd just done, what she'd just lost, kept her frozen in place. Around her, the city moved on. People rushed past with coffee cups and briefcases, already late for their own important meetings, their own lives. No one stopped to ask if she was okay. Finally, she pulled out her phone with shaking hands and dialed the number she'd saved weeks ago. It rang 4 times before a crisp voice answered. Ashford Enterprises, Human Resources. Hi, this is Zara Bennett. I had a 9 o'clock interview this morning for the executive assistant position, and her voice cracked. She cleared her throat, tried again. I'm so sorry, but I'm not going to make it. There was an emergency and Miss Bennett, the voice interrupted, professional but cold. Your interview was scheduled for 30 minutes ago. We've already moved on to our next candidate. I know, I'm sorry, but if there's any way I could reschedule. We have several qualified candidates. If you couldn't prioritize this interview, I'm not sure you're the right fit for a position that requires reliability. The words landed like physical blows. Please, Zara said, hating how desperate she sounded. It was a medical emergency. There was a man having a heart attack on the street, and no one else was helping. I couldn't just. I understand, Miss Bennett. But we need someone who can manage their time effectively. Thank you for your interest. The line went dead. Zara stared at her phone, the rejection still echoing in her ears. Couldn't prioritize. As if saving a man's life was poor time management. She wanted to scream. Wanted to throw her phone. Wanted to go back in time and make a different choice. But she couldn't. And even if she could, she wouldn't. Because that man, Daniel, would be dead. And she'd have to live with that for the rest of her life, even if she'd gotten the job. 3 days passed in a gray blur. Zara went back to the coffee shop, back to her regular shifts, back to the life she'd been trying so desperately to escape. Her co-workers noticed she was quieter than usual, but no one pushed. Her mother found her crying in the kitchen on the second night. Baby, what happened? So Zara told her. About the interview. About Daniel. About the choice she'd made. Her mother pulled her into a fierce hug. You did the right thing. The right thing cost me everything. No, baby. It cost you a job. But it proved something more important. Who you are when it matters. That's worth more than any paycheck. Doesn't feel like it, Zara whispered. Feels like being good is just another word for being stupid. Her mother pulled back, gripping Zara's shoulders. Don't you dare let one setback make you cynical. Don't let this city turn you into someone who walks past people in need. You're better than that. What if being better doesn't pay the bills, Mama? Her mother's eyes filled with tears. Then we'll figure it out. Like we always do. Together. On the 4th day, Zara was working the afternoon shift when her manager called her into the back office. There's someone here to see you, she said, her expression odd. Says it's important. Who? Didn't give a name. But he's in an expensive suit, and he asked for you specifically. Dread pooled in Zara's stomach. Had she done something wrong that day? Was Daniel suing her? Could you sue someone for trying to save your life? She wiped her hands on her apron and walked out to the lobby. And froze. It was him. Daniel. The man from the street. He looked different than he had 4 days ago. Less gray, more alive. He wore a dark suit that probably cost more than her rent. His blue eyes were clear and focused. And when he saw her, his face transformed with something that looked like relief. Zara, he said, like her name was something precious. She glanced around the coffee shop, suddenly aware of how shabby it was, how shabby she must look in her stained apron and tired uniform. Daniel. How are you? Are you okay? I'm alive, he said simply. Because of you. Her throat tightened. I just did what anyone would do. No. He stepped closer. You did what almost no one would do. 47 people walked past me that morning. My driver counted. 47 people saw me collapse and kept walking. But you stopped. You stayed. You sacrificed something important. I could see it on your face, to help a stranger. How did you find me? Your purse. The paramedics gave it back to me at the hospital along with my things. Your ID was inside. He pulled something from his pocket, her license. I had to return it. And I had to thank you properly. You didn't have to track me down. Yes, I did. His voice was firm. The doctors said if you hadn't acted as quickly as you did, if you hadn't kept me calm, if you hadn't administered the aspirin, I would have died before the ambulance arrived. You saved my life, Zara. That deserves more than a phone call. Tears pricked her eyes. I'm just glad you're okay. Daniel studied her face, and she saw the moment something shifted in his expression. Recognition. Understanding. You were on your way somewhere, he said quietly. That morning. You were dressed professionally. You kept checking your phone. You were late for something important. Zara looked away. It doesn't matter now. What was it? Daniel. Please. Tell me. She took a breath. A job interview. For an executive assistant position. She tried to smile. Guess I should have kept walking, huh? The look on his face was complicated. Guilt, anger, something else she couldn't name. Where was the interview? It doesn't matter. I didn't make it. They already filled the position. Where, Zara? She met his eyes. Ashford Enterprises. Daniel went very still. My company. You were interviewing at my company. She stared at him. You're that Ashford? The CEO? I am. The air between them felt electric with unspoken implications. I need to sit down, Zara said faintly. Daniel guided her to one of the small tables, pulled out a chair. Sat across from her with an intensity that made her pulse race. Tell me everything, he said. About the interview. About what happened after the ambulance left. Everything. So she did. About the phone call. The cold rejection. The words that still stung. Couldn't prioritize. Daniel's jaw clenched tighter with every sentence. When she finished, he said, "I'm going to fix this." "You can't." "Yes, I can. And I will." He pulled out his phone, typed something quickly. "What's your schedule tomorrow?" "I work until 3. "Not anymore. You're taking the day off." "I'm clearing my morning." He looked up at her, his eyes blazing with determination. "You're coming to Ashford Enterprises. Tomorrow. 9 a.m. And you're getting that interview." "Daniel, I appreciate the gesture, but they already said no. They don't know what they said no to." He stood. "Tomorrow, Zara. 9 a.m. I'll have a car pick you up. Don't argue." "I wasn't going to." "Good." His expression softened. "And Zara, thank you. For my life. I promise you, that kindness won't be forgotten." He walked out before she could respond, leaving her sitting there with her heart pounding and her mind racing. Her manager appeared at her elbow. "Who was that?" "I have no idea," Zara whispered. But that was a lie. She was starting to think he might be her second chance. Zara barely slept that night. She lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, her mind spinning through 1,000 possibilities. What if this was some kind of elaborate joke? What if Daniel Ashford was the type of wealthy man who made grand promises he never intended to keep? What if she showed up tomorrow and was humiliated all over again? But mostly she wondered, what if it was real? At 8:30 a.m., a sleek black car pulled up outside her apartment building. Zara had been ready since 7 o'clock, having tried on her interview outfit 3 times, redone her makeup twice, and nearly talked herself out of going at least 5 times. Her mother had physically pushed her out the door. "Stop overthinking," her mother had said. "Just go see what happens." Now, sitting in the back of a car that probably cost more than her entire life savings, Zara felt completely out of her depth. The driver was polite but silent. The leather seats were buttersoft. Classical music played quietly from hidden speakers. This wasn't her world. The car pulled up to the Ashford Enterprises building. 50 stories of glass and steel that reflected the morning sun like a beacon. Zara's stomach churned. The driver opened her door. "Mr. Ashford is expecting you on the executive floor. 48th floor. Give your name at the desk." "Thank you," Zara managed. The lobby was all marble and modern art. Women in designer suits clicked past on expensive heels. Men in tailored shirts carried leather portfolios. Everyone looked like they belonged. Zara felt like an imposter. The receptionist directed her to the elevator with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Zara rode up alone, watching the numbers climb, her reflection in the polished doors looking small and uncertain. The elevator opened directly into a reception area that screamed wealth and power. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city. The furniture looked like it belonged in a museum. And standing there, waiting for her, was Daniel Ashford. He looked different in his element, more commanding, more certain. His suit was perfectly tailored. His presence filled the space. But when he saw her, his face softened into something almost vulnerable. "You came," he said. "You sent a car. Would have been rude not to." A smile tugged at his lips. "Thank you. For giving me the chance to do this right." He gestured down a hallway. "Shall we?" "Daniel, wait." Zara stayed rooted in place. "I need to know, why are you doing this? Is it guilt? Because you feel like you owe me? Because I don't want a job out of pity." His expression grew serious. "It's not pity. And yes, I owe you my life. But that's not why you're here." He took a step closer. "You're here because on the worst day of my life, when I was dying on a sidewalk, you made a choice. You chose compassion over self-interest. You chose to help someone when it cost you everything. That doesn't make me qualified to be your assistant. No, but it tells me something more important than any resume. It tells me about your character. And character is something you can't teach." He paused. "I've interviewed 27 people for this position. All of them had perfect credentials. Ivy League degrees. Stellar references. All the right words. But I didn't trust a single one of them. And you trust me? You don't even know me. I know you stopped when 47 other people kept walking. I know you held my hand when I was terrified I was dying. I know you sacrificed something incredibly important to save a stranger." His voice dropped. "That's not nothing, Zara. That's everything." She wanted to believe him. Wanted to accept this second chance with both hands and not question it. But she'd learned the hard way that things that seemed too good to be true usually were. "What if I'm not good at it?" she asked quietly. "What if I can't do the job? Then I'll train you. And if after 6 months it's not working, for either of us, we'll part ways professionally and you'll have experience at a major company on your resume. He held out his hand. That's the deal. Fair. Zara looked at his hand, looked at his face, saw nothing but genuine sincerity. She shook his hand. Fair. His smile was brilliant. Good. Now let's go make HR very uncomfortable. The HR director who'd rejected Zara's call was a woman named Patricia Chun. When Daniel walked into her office with Zara in tow, Patricia's professional smile faltered. Mr. Ashford. I wasn't expecting. Patricia, this is Zara Bennett. You spoke with her on Monday. Recognition flickered across Patricia's face, followed quickly by discomfort. Yes, Miss Bennett called about missing her interview. Because she was saving my life, Daniel said, his voice pleasant, but with an edge of steel beneath it. I was the medical emergency she mentioned. Patricia went pale. I didn't know. No, you didn't. Because you didn't ask. Daniel pulled out a chair for Zara, then sat in the one beside it, creating a united front. You told her she couldn't prioritize. That she wasn't reliable. That she wasn't the right fit. Mr. Ashford, I apologize, I had no idea. I'm not interested in apologies. I'm interested in making sure this doesn't happen again. He leaned forward. Miss Bennett sacrificed her opportunity with this company to ensure I survived long enough to reach the hospital. The doctors confirmed I would have died without her intervention. So when I tell you that she's starting as my executive assistant tomorrow, I expect full cooperation. Of course. Absolutely. Patricia's professional composure was cracking. Miss Bennett, I sincerely apologize for. Save it, Zara said quietly, surprising herself. You made a judgment call with the information you had. I understand that. But you could have listened. You could have given me a chance to explain. Patricia nodded stiffly. You're right. I should have. Zara will need full onboarding, Daniel continued. Standard executive assistant package, salary, benefits, everything Margaret had. Also, I want a review of our HR protocols. Specifically, how we handle emergency situations and candidate communication. This shouldn't happen again. I'll draft new guidelines immediately. Good. Daniel stood, offering his hand to Zara. We're done here. They walked out together, and Zara didn't speak until they were alone in the elevator. That was intense, she breathed. That was necessary. Daniel looked at her. You saved my life. The least I can do is make sure people treat you with the respect you deserve. I don't need you to fight my battles. I know, but sometimes it helps to have someone in your corner. The elevator stopped at the executive floor. Come on, I'll show you your office. My office? Did you think you'd work from a cubicle? He grinned. Zara, you're my executive assistant. That means you need to be accessible. Your office connects to mine. He led her down a hall and opened a door. The space was beautiful, modern desk, ergonomic chair, large windows with a stunning city view. A computer setup that looked brand new. Everything pristine and professional. This is mine, she whispered. All yours. Margaret's cleaning out her things today. You start tomorrow, but I thought you might want to see where you'll be working. Zara walked to the window, looking out at the city spread below. From up here, everything looked different. Possible. Daniel, she said without turning around. Why are you really doing this? She heard him move closer. Because 4 days ago, I learned something about myself. When I was lying on that sidewalk, dying, all I could think about was everything I hadn't done. All the relationships I'd sacrificed for work. All the moments I'd missed because I was too busy building an empire. He stopped beside her, both of them reflected in the glass. And then you appeared. This stranger who had every reason to keep walking, to prioritize her own life, her own future. But you didn't. You stayed. And I realized that's who I want to be. Someone who stops. Someone who helps. Someone who values people more than profit. Zara turned to face him. So this is about you becoming a better person? Maybe. He met her eyes. Or maybe it's about recognizing that kindness deserves to be rewarded. That character matters. That the person who saved my life shouldn't be punished for it. And if I fail, then you fail. But at least you'll fail while being paid well and having health insurance. His smile was gentle. Give yourself permission to try, Zara. You've earned it. She wanted to argue. Wanted to push back against the fear whispering that she didn't belong here. But maybe, just maybe she did. Okay, she said. I'll try. That's all I ask. They stood there, the city stretched out before them, and Zara felt something shift inside her chest. Hope. Dangerous, terrifying, beautiful hope. Zara's first day was overwhelming. Margaret, Daniel's outgoing assistant, spent 8 hours downloading 7 years' worth of institutional knowledge into Zara's brain. Calendar management. Email protocols. Which board members needed handling with kid gloves. Which vendors could be pushed. Daniel's coffee order, black, 2 sugars, but only before noon, after that just black. His schedule preferences. His communication style. 1,000 small details that made the difference between competent and indispensable. He's demanding but fair, Margaret said as they reviewed the contact database. He expects excellence, but he'll give you the tools to achieve it. Ask questions. He prefers that to mistakes made in silence. Any other advice? Margaret paused, choosing her words carefully. Daniel is brilliant at business, but he's forgotten how to be a person. He works 18-hour days, skips meals, hasn't taken a vacation in 3 years. The heart attack should have been a wake-up call, but she shook her head. Just watch out for him, even if he won't watch out for himself. By 6 p.m., Zara's brain was full and her feet hurt. She was gathering her things when Daniel appeared in her doorway. How was day 1? Like drinking from a fire hose. But I think I survived. Good. Because I need a favor. He looked almost sheepish. I have a dinner meeting tonight. With the Castellano group. They're considering partnering with us on the Riverside Development Project. Okay. My cardiologist says I shouldn't be going alone to high-stress situations for at least another month. Something about monitoring for another episode. He cleared his throat. Would you come? As my assistant. Take notes. Keep an eye on me. Margaret usually attends these anyway, so it wouldn't be unusual. Zara glanced at her watch. Her shift at the coffee shop started at 8 p.m., but she'd already called in her 2 weeks' notice this morning. This job paid enough that she didn't need the second income anymore. What time? 7. At Bacchanalia. I'll have the car take you home to change first. Daniel, I can't afford. It's a business dinner. On the company card. And you're representing Ashford Enterprises now. There's a discretionary budget for professional attire. Use it. I can't just. Zara. His voice was gentle but firm. Part of this job is attending events with me. You need appropriate clothes for that. It's not charity. It's a business expense. Let me make this easier for you. She wanted to argue. Wanted to maintain her pride, her independence. But she was also exhausted from years of making everything harder than it needed to be. Okay, she said finally. Thank you. 2 hours later, Zara stood in front of her bathroom mirror, barely recognizing herself. The dress was simple but elegant. Navy blue, professional but flattering. The shoes were actually comfortable. She'd done her makeup carefully, added small gold earrings her grandmother had left her. She looked like she belonged in Daniel's world. The thought was both thrilling and terrifying. The car arrived at 6:45. Daniel was already inside, reviewing documents on his tablet. He looked up when she entered, and something flickered across his face. Surprise, appreciation, something else. He quickly shuddered. You look professional, he said. That's the goal, right? Right. He cleared his throat. Here's what you need to know about the Castellanos. He briefed her on the drive to the restaurant. Antonio Castellano was old-school real estate, family money, suspicious of new players. His daughter, Sophia, actually ran the business but let her father think he was in charge. The key was winning Sophia over while not offending Antonio. Just observe tonight, Daniel said as they pulled up. Take mental notes. You don't need to speak unless spoken to. Bacchanalia was exactly the type of restaurant Zara had never been able to afford. The kind where the menu didn't list prices and the waiters wore better suits than most CEOs. She felt her confidence wavering as they walked in. Daniel must have sensed it. His hand touched her lower back, steadying. You belong here, he said quietly. Remember that. The Castellanos were already seated. Antonio was in his 60s, broad-shouldered and suspicious-eyed. Sophia was maybe 35, elegant in a black dress, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. Ashford, Antonio said, not standing. Heard you had some health troubles. Minor setback. I'm fine now. At your age? Antonio's laugh was harsh. That's what I said before my first bypass. You're working too hard, boy. This is Zara Bennett, my new executive assistant, Daniel said smoothly, deflecting. She'll be helping coordinate the Riverside project if we move forward. Sophia's eyes assessed Zara with calculating precision. Bennett. I've heard that name recently. Weren't you the woman who saved Daniel's life? The table went quiet. Zara hadn't expected to be recognized. Ah, yes. I helped him during a medical emergency. More than helped, Daniel said. She's the reason I'm here at all. Antonio's expression shifted, something almost like respect entering his eyes. You stopped to help a stranger? I did what anyone should do. But most don't, Sophia said. She leaned forward, interested now. What were you doing before Ashford hired you? Zara could feel Daniel tense beside her, ready to deflect. But something in Sophia's expression told her honesty was the right play. I was working at a coffee shop, trying to make ends meet while taking online classes. I'd applied for the assistant position at Ashford Enterprises, but I missed my interview because she was saving my life, Daniel finished. And the universe has a sense of irony. Antonio laughed, a real laugh this time. I like her. She's got spine. You can see it. The dinner proceeded smoothly after that. Zara mostly listened, occasionally taking notes on her phone when technical details came up. But she noticed things. The way Sophia really made the decisions while letting her father think he was in charge. The way Antonio relaxed after his second glass of wine. The moment when Sophia's interest shifted from skeptical to genuinely considering the partnership. She also noticed Daniel. The way he winced when he thought no one was looking. The tightness around his eyes that suggested a headache. The way he subtly touched his chest once, twice, checking. When Antonio and Sophia excused themselves to take a phone call, Zara leaned in. You're in pain. I'm fine. Daniel. He met her eyes. Minor discomfort. Nothing to worry about. Did you take your evening medication? He paused. I forgot. Zara pulled a pill organizer from her purse. She'd asked Margaret about his medication schedule. Had filled it herself that afternoon. Here. Daniel stared at the pills, then at her. You prepared my medication? Margaret said you forget when you're stressed. Someone needs to remember. She handed him a water glass. Take them. He did, something vulnerable crossing his face. Thank you. That's what I'm here for, right? To keep you functional. Is that all you think this is? The question hung between them, loaded with implications neither was ready to address. The Castellanos returned before Zara could answer. By the end of dinner, the partnership was essentially agreed upon. Antonio and Sophia left with promises to have their lawyers draw up preliminary agreements. In the car back, Daniel was quiet. What are you thinking? Zara asked. That you were perfect tonight. That Sophia liked you. That my father always told me the measure of a person isn't how they treat their equals. It's how they treat people who can't do anything for them. He looked at her. You stopped for me when I was a stranger on the street. That's who you are. And I think people can sense that. I just did what felt right. That's what makes it matter. He paused. Zara, I want you to know, this job isn't charity. You earned it. Tonight proved that. Tonight I mostly just sat and took notes. Tonight you noticed I was in pain when no one else did. You had my medication ready. You connected with the Castellanos in a way I couldn't. His voice dropped. You're good at this. Don't doubt that. She wanted to believe him. Wanted to accept that maybe she deserved to be here. Thank you, she said quietly. They rode in comfortable silence until the car pulled up to her apartment building. Daniel walked her to the door, unnecessary, but she didn't protest. Same time tomorrow, he asked. I'll be there. Good. He hesitated then. Zara? I'm glad you stopped that day. Not just because you saved my life, but because it brought you into mine. Before she could respond, he was gone, back to the car, leaving her standing there with her heart racing and a dangerous warmth blooming in her chest. This was just a job, she reminded herself. Just a professional relationship. Nothing more. But as she lay in bed that night, replaying the evening, she couldn't quite convince herself that was true. 3 weeks into her new job, Zara had settled into a rhythm. She arrived at 7:30 a.m. before Daniel and had his schedule organized, his coffee ready, his most urgent emails flagged by the time he walked in at 8 o'clock. She managed his calendar with precision, learned which meetings needed his full attention and which she could handle with detailed notes. She reminded him to eat lunch, to take his medication, to leave the office before midnight. She was good at this job, better than she'd expected. But she was also starting to see things that worried her. Daniel worked constantly. 18-hour days were normal. He'd skip meals if she didn't physically bring food to his desk. He'd forget to take breaks. Twice, she'd found him still in the office at 2 a.m., working on proposals that didn't need to be finished for weeks. You're going to have another heart attack, she said on the third time she found him there after midnight. I'm fine. You're not. You're exhausted. When did you last sleep a full 8 hours? He didn't answer. Daniel, I don't need 8 hours. 5 is enough, says the man who nearly died 3 weeks ago. He looked up from his laptop, his eyes shadowed with fatigue. What do you want me to say, Zara? That I'm scared if I stop working, everything will fall apart? That I've spent 15 years building this company, and the thought of slowing down makes me feel like I'm dying faster than any heart condition could. The raw honesty in his voice stopped her cold. Why? She asked quietly, pulling up a chair. Why does it matter so much? Daniel leaned back, rubbing his eyes. For a long moment, she thought he wouldn't answer. Then, my father built a company. Smaller than this, but successful. He worked himself to death for it, literally. Heart attack at 48, at his desk, alone at 3 a.m. Daniel's voice was flat, reciting facts. I was 15. Found him the next morning when I came to bring him breakfast before school. Zara's breath caught. Daniel. Everyone said he was a success, that he'd built something meaningful. But at his funeral, I looked around and realized he died alone. His employees respected him, but didn't know him. His business partners sent flowers, not tears. And my mother. He swallowed hard. She said she'd lost him years before he died. That he'd chosen the company over us long ago. I'm so sorry. I swore I'd be different. That I'd build success without sacrificing everything else. But here I am, 34, no wife, no kids, no real friends outside of work. Margaret was probably the closest thing I had to a personal relationship, and she was on my payroll. His laugh was bitter. I'm becoming exactly what I swore I'd never be. Zara moved her chair closer. You survived a heart attack at 34. Your body is telling you something. You can't keep living like this. I don't know how to live any other way. Then learn. Start small. Leave the office at 7 p.m. tomorrow. Not midnight. Not 9 p.m. 7. Zara, I'm not asking. I'm telling you. As the person whose job is to manage your schedule and keep you functional, you're leaving at 7 tomorrow. She held his gaze. And I'm going to make sure you actually go home. Something in his expression shifted. Softened. You're very bossy for someone who's been here 3 weeks. Someone has to be. Clearly, you can't be trusted to take care of yourself. Is that right? That's right. They sat there, the office quiet around them, the city lights twinkling through the windows. And for the first time since she'd started, Zara saw past the CEO, past the millionaire, to the lonely, driven man underneath. Why do you care? Daniel asked quietly. Because I stopped to help you once. Seems wrong to let you slowly kill yourself now. That's the only reason? It wasn't. But she couldn't say the real reason. That she'd started looking forward to their morning coffee conversations. That she'd started noticing small things about him. The way he drummed his fingers when thinking, the half-smile he got when a deal went through, the rare full laugh she'd managed to pull from him twice now. That he'd started feeling like more than just a boss. That's the only reason, she lied. He studied her face like he could see through the lie. But he didn't call her on it. Okay, he said finally. 7 p.m. tomorrow. I'll leave. Promise. Promise. The next evening, Daniel's 7 p.m. alarm went off. He looked at it, looked at the stack of work on his desk, then looked at Zara standing in his doorway with her arms crossed. Don't even think about it, she said. I have 3 proposals to review, which will still be here tomorrow morning. You promised. Zara, do I need to physically escort you out? Because I will. Despite himself, Daniel smiled. You're 5'6". I'm 6'2". How exactly would that work? I'd call building security and tell them you're having a medical emergency. They'd escort you out in a wheelchair if necessary. Don't test me. He laughed, that full, genuine laugh she'd only heard twice before. You're serious. Deadly. He shut his laptop. Fine. I'm leaving. Happy. Ecstatic. Now go home. Watch TV. Read a book. Do something that isn't work. I don't remember how. Then figure it out. That's an order. As he gathered his things, he paused. Zara? Thank you. For caring enough to push. Someone has to. They rode the elevator down together. The parking garage was nearly empty this early. Most people had left hours ago. Daniel's car was in his reserved spot, sleek and expensive. Do you need a ride? He asked. I'll take the train. I'm fine. Zara, it's dark. I've been taking the train in the dark for years, Daniel. I'll survive. But he didn't get in his car. Instead, he leaned against it, looking at her with an expression she couldn't quite read. Can I ask you something personal? Depends on the question. Why did you really stop that day? When you saw me on the street? Zara thought about lying. About giving some noble answer about duty or compassion. But something about the vulnerability in his eyes made her tell the truth. My little brother, Marcus, has epilepsy. When he was 12, he had a seizure at school. Kids stood around filming it on their phones. No one helped. No one called for an adult. They just watched. Her voice tightened. A teacher found him 5 minutes later. He could have died. And I swore I'd never be the person who just watches. I'd never walk past someone in trouble. Because that's how my brother almost died. Because people didn't care enough to help. Daniel's expression transformed. I didn't know. No reason you would. But that's why I stopped. Because I couldn't be one of those people who filmed and walked away. Even if it cost me everything. It did cost you everything. That job led me here. To this job. To. She stopped herself before saying something she couldn't take back. To what? To a better opportunity, she finished carefully. Daniel pushed off from his car, closing the distance between them. Zara, I need to tell you something. What? I lied earlier. When you asked why it matters what you think. Why I care if you worry about me. Her heart started racing. Daniel, I care because, he stopped, seeming to struggle with the words. Because in 3 weeks, you've become the most important part of my day. Because I look forward to our morning conversations more than any business meeting. Because when you smile at me, really smile, it feels like the first genuine thing that's happened to me in years. You're my boss, Zara said, even as her traitorous heart leapt. I know, which is why I shouldn't be saying this. Why I should keep things professional. But I'm tired of living by should. Tired of always doing what's expected instead of what feels right. Daniel, this is a bad idea. I know, but I can't stop thinking about you. About the fact that you saved my life, and then somehow saved everything else too. He took a breath. I'm not asking you to feel the same way. I just needed you to know. That you matter. More than you should. More than is probably appropriate. Zara's mind raced. This was her boss. Her employer. The man who'd given her this opportunity. Getting involved would be complicated, messy, potentially career-ending. But when she looked at him, really looked at him, she saw the truth she'd been avoiding for weeks. She was falling for him too. I need to think, she said finally. Of course. Take all the time you need. This doesn't change anything at work. I promise. I needed you to know. He got in his car and drove away, leaving Zara standing in the parking garage with her heart pounding and her carefully constructed professional boundaries in ruins. Because the truth was, she didn't want to think. She wanted to say yes. Zara didn't sleep that night. She lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying Daniel's words over and over. You've become the most important part of my day. The vulnerability in his voice. The way he'd looked at her like she was something precious he was afraid to break. Her phone buzzed at 2 a.m. A text from her mother, who was working the night shift. Can't sleep either? Want to talk? Zara called. Baby, what's wrong? Her mother asked immediately. So Zara told her. About Daniel's confession. About her own confused feelings. About the impossibility of the situation. Do you have feelings for him? Her mother asked. I don't know. Maybe. Probably. Zara groaned. He's my boss, Mama. This is a terrible idea. Is he a good man? I think so. He works too hard. He's lonely. But he's kind. Genuine. He stepped down from a major deal last week because he found out the contractors were underpaying their workers. Cost the company millions. And how does he treat you? Zara thought about it. Like I matter. Like my opinions are valuable. He asks what I think about deals, about strategy. He listens when I push back. Her voice softened. He makes me feel seen. Then what's really stopping you? Fear. That I'll lose this job if it doesn't work out. That I'm reading too much into kindness. That I'm just another project for him. The woman he saved by giving her a job, and now he feels responsible for. Is that what you really think? No, Zara admitted quietly. But it's safer than believing he actually cares. Her mother was quiet for a moment. Baby, you've spent your whole life playing it safe. Working hard, keeping your head down, never asking for more than you thought you deserved. And where did it get you? Working 2 jobs, exhausted, barely surviving. Then you made one reckless choice. You stopped to help a stranger, and everything changed. That's different. Is it? Or is it the same thing? Choosing to be brave even when it's scary. Choosing to trust even when you might get hurt. Her mother's voice grew fierce. Don't let fear steal this from you. Don't let fear make you smaller than you are. After they hung up, Zara lay awake until dawn, her mother's words echoing in her mind. Don't let fear make you smaller than you are. The next morning, Zara arrived at the office early as usual. Daniel's coffee was ready. His schedule was organized, but her hands shook slightly as she arranged the papers on his desk. When he walked in at 8 o'clock, their eyes met. "Good morning," he said carefully. "Morning. Your coffee's ready. You have a 9 o'clock with the Peterson group then." "Zara." She stopped talking. "Can we talk about last night? Or are we pretending it didn't happen?" "I don't know yet." Daniel nodded slowly. "Fair enough. Just know whatever you decide, your job is safe." "I meant what I said. This doesn't change anything professionally unless you want it to." "And if I want it to?" The question hung between them. Daniel set down his briefcase. "Then we figure it out. Together. But only if you want to. No pressure. No expectations." Before Zara could respond, her phone rang. The main desk. "Mr. Ashford has a visitor," the receptionist said. "She says it's personal." "A Ms. Victoria Ashford?" Daniel's face went carefully blank. "Send her up." "Who's Victoria?" Zara asked. "My mother." His tone was neutral, but tension radiated from him. "I should warn you, she's not an easy woman." 5 minutes later, the elevator opened to reveal a woman in her early 60s. Impeccably dressed, cold eyes, the kind of elegance that felt weaponized. "Daniel," she said, not moving to embrace him. "You haven't returned my calls." "I've been busy, mother." "Too busy for family?" "How typical." Her gaze landed on Zara. "And who is this?" "Zara Bennett, my executive assistant." "Zara, this is my mother, Victoria Ashford." Victoria's eyes assessed Zara with surgical precision. "How long have you worked here, dear?" 3 weeks, ma'am." 3 weeks. How fresh." The word dripped with condescension. "And before this? Where did you work?" "Mother," Daniel said warningly. "I'm simply making conversation, darling. No need to be defensive." Victoria's smile didn't reach her eyes. "Though I must say, Daniel, it's unlike you to hire someone so inexperienced for such a crucial position. Margaret had 7 years with you. Zara is more than qualified." "I'm sure she is." Victoria's tone suggested the opposite. "Though I did hear the most interesting rumor. That you hired the woman who saved your life. How very sentimental of you." Zara felt her face heat. She understood now what Daniel had meant. Victoria Ashford was the kind of woman who could gut you with perfect politeness. "Is there something you need, mother?" Daniel asked, his patience clearly wearing thin. "Or did you come just to insult my staff?" "I came because you had a heart attack and have barely spoken to me since." "I'm your mother. I worry. You've never worried about me before. Why start now?" The words were sharp, cutting. Victoria flinched, barely, but Zara saw it. "That's not fair, Daniel." "Isn't it? You told me at Father's funeral that he chose work over family. That we'd lost him long before he died. And then you did the exact same thing. Threw yourself into your charity work, your social circles, anything to avoid being home." Daniel's voice was quiet but fierce. "You want to know why I don't return your calls? Because talking to you reminds me of everything I'm terrified of becoming." Silence filled the office. Victoria's composure cracked just slightly. "I did the best I could." "I know. But your best left me raising myself from 15 on. So forgive me if I don't feel particularly filial now." Victoria stood, gathering her purse with shaking hands. "I see I've overstayed my welcome." "As usual." She turned to leave, then paused. "That girl, your assistant. She looks at you like you matter. Like you're more than a name and a bank account. Don't destroy that the way your father destroyed everything good in his life." She left before either of them could respond. Daniel stood frozen, his jaw clenched, years of pain written across his face. Zara moved to him without thinking. Took his hand. "I'm sorry," she said softly. "Don't be. You saw what I came from. Now you understand why I don't know how to do this, relationships, feelings, any of it. I had excellent teachers in what not to do." "You're not your parents, Daniel." "How do you know?" "Because you're here. Because you work 18-hour days not just for success, but because you're terrified of being alone with yourself. Because when I push back, you listen. Because you noticed I was struggling and helped without making me feel small." She squeezed his hand. "Your father chose work over people. But you? You stopped working at 7 p.m. yesterday because I asked you to. That's not the same." Something in his face broke open. "I don't want to be alone anymore, Zara. I don't want to build an empire and die at my desk like he did. I want, his voice cracked. I want to matter to someone. I want someone to matter to me. And you, God, you terrify me because you already do. I terrify you? Yes. Because caring about you means risking something real. And I haven't risked anything real in 15 years. Zara stepped closer, closing the distance between them. I'm terrified too. But maybe we can be terrified together. Is that a yes? It's a maybe. A let's see what happens. A let's be careful but honest. She looked up at him. Can you handle that? I can handle anything as long as you're honest with me. Then I'm honestly telling you, I have feelings for you. I don't know what they mean yet. But they're there. Daniel's smile was tentative, hopeful, beautiful. That's enough. More than enough. They stood there, hands still linked, the office quiet around them. And for the first time since his confession, Zara felt like maybe this wasn't impossible. Just complicated. And maybe complicated was worth it. Have you ever had to choose between playing it safe and taking a chance on something that scared you? Have you ever let fear stop you from pursuing what you really wanted? This story is about finding courage in unexpected places. Share your thoughts below. For 2 weeks, everything felt possible. Zara and Daniel kept things professional at work, or tried to. But there were moments, his hand brushing hers when passing documents. The way his eyes found hers across a conference room. Late evenings when everyone else had left, and they'd talk about everything except work, childhoods, dreams, fears they'd never voiced to anyone else. They hadn't defined what they were. Hadn't kissed. Hadn't crossed any lines that couldn't be uncrossed. But everyone knew something had shifted. Margaret noticed before she left. He's different with you, she'd said on her last day. Lighter. Be careful with that. And with yourself. Zara should have listened. The explosion came on a Thursday. Zara was in Daniel's office reviewing the quarterly reports when his phone rang. He glanced at the screen and his face went tight. I need to take this, he said, stepping into the hallway. She didn't mean to eavesdrop. But the walls were thin and his voice carried. I told you, Victoria, I'm not discussing this. It doesn't matter what you think. She's qualified for the position. That's none of your business. No, we're not. A long pause. That's a lie and you know it. I don't care what the board thinks. You have no right. He came back in, his face stormy. Everything okay? Zara asked. Fine. Just my mother stirring up trouble. He tried to smile. Nothing to worry about. But an hour later, Patricia from HR called Zara into her office. Miss Bennett, I need to ask you some questions. It's come to our attention that there may be an inappropriate relationship developing between you and Mr. Ashford. Zara's blood ran cold. Who said that? That's not relevant. What is relevant is ensuring proper professional boundaries are maintained. This company has strict policies about superior-subordinate relationships. There's no relationship. Daniel, Mr. Ashford and I are professional. Multiple employees have reported seeing you two in what appeared to be intimate conversations after hours. Alone in his office. Touching. We've never been inappropriate. Miss Bennett, I'm not accusing you of misconduct. Yet. But I need to make clear that any romantic or sexual relationship between you and Mr. Ashford would be a serious violation of company policy. One that could result in termination. The threat was clear. When Zara returned to her office, her hands were shaking. She knew who'd made the report. Victoria Ashford, using her connections on the board to interfere. Daniel was in a meeting. She had 2 hours to decide what to do. That evening, when the office had cleared, Daniel found her packing her things. What are you doing? Going home. Early night. Zara, what's wrong? Nothing. Don't lie to me. Please. He closed the office door. What happened? So she told him. About HR. About the warning. About the threat to her job. Daniel's face went white with rage. My mother did this. She called the board, made accusations. It doesn't matter who did it. What matters is they're watching us. And if there's anything between us, I'll lose this job. The job that changed my life. I won't let that happen. You can't stop it. Her voice rose. Daniel, you're the CEO, but you still answer to a board. And they've made it clear. If we're together, I'm gone. Not you. Me. Because that's how it always works. The powerful man keeps his position, and the woman loses everything. That's not fair. No, it's not. But it's reality. Tears burned her eyes. So we have to stop. Whatever this is between us, it has to stop. I don't accept that. You have to. No. He stepped closer. I'll resign. I'll step down as CEO. Will. And then what? You resent me for costing you the company you built? For making you give up everything? She shook her head. I won't be that person. I won't be the reason you lose what matters most to you. You matter most to me. The words hung in the air, raw and desperate. You don't mean that, Zara said quietly. Yes, I do. I love you, Zara. I've been falling in love with you since the moment you held my hand on that sidewalk and told me I'd be okay. And I don't care about policies or boards or what my mother thinks. I care about you. Her heart was breaking. Daniel, I spent 15 years building a company to prove I was worth something. To prove I wasn't like my father. But you know what I learned? It doesn't matter. None of it matters if I'm alone. If I'm just another rich, successful, miserable man who chose profit over people. He took her hands. I don't want that life anymore. I want you. And I want to keep my job. I want the security and the health insurance and the future I'm building. I can't, her voice cracked. I can't sacrifice that. Not again. I gave up everything once for someone I loved, and it destroyed me. I won't do it again. Understanding dawned in Daniel's eyes. This isn't just about the job, is it? This is about your fear that I'll leave. Like he did. She pulled her hands away. Don't psychoanalyze me. Then talk to me. Really talk to me. Tell me what you're afraid of. I'm afraid. The words burst out. I'm afraid I'll fall completely in love with you, and then you'll realize I'm not worth losing everything for. I'm afraid your mother is right, that I'm just some charity case, some project. I'm afraid you'll wake up one day and wonder why you threw away your company for the girl from the coffee shop. That will never happen. You don't know that. You can't promise that. She was crying now, ugly and real. 3 months ago, I was nobody. I was invisible. And now I have this job and this life and the possibility of a future I never thought I could have. And you're asking me to risk all of it. For what? For feelings? For maybe. For us, Daniel said desperately. For the chance to build something real. I can't. The words tasted like ash. I'm sorry, but I can't. So that's it? You're choosing the job over me? I'm choosing to survive. I'm choosing not to depend on someone else for my worth. I'm choosing, she stopped, wiping her face. I'm choosing me. For once in my life, I'm choosing me. Daniel looked like she'd slapped him. I understand. Do you? No. But I respect your choice. His voice was hollow. I'll have Patricia draft transfer papers. You'll move to a different department, report to someone else. You'll keep the same salary, same benefits. We'll make sure your career isn't affected. Daniel, it's fine. You're right. We can't do this. I shouldn't have, he stopped, his jaw working. I'll make sure you're taken care of. Professionally. That's all. He walked out before she could respond. Zara sank into her chair and let herself shatter. Because she'd done the smart thing. The safe thing. The thing that protected her future. So why did it feel like she'd just destroyed the only thing that actually mattered? The next morning, there was an envelope on her desk. Transfer papers. Effective immediately. New position. Senior Project Coordinator, reporting to the VP of Operations. Same salary. Better benefits, actually. And a handwritten note in Daniel's precise script. You were right to choose yourself. I hope this new position gives you the stability and security you deserve. I'll always be grateful you stopped that day. Not just because you saved my life, but because knowing you reminded me what it felt like to be human. Thank you. D. Zara read it 3 times, tears streaming down her face. She'd won. She'd kept her job, her security, her future. But as she packed her things to move to the new office on a different floor, it felt an awful lot like losing. 2 weeks passed in gray monotony. Zara threw herself into her new position. The VP of Operations, Jonathan Hayes, was competent but distant. The work was fine, coordinating projects, managing timelines, interfacing with contractors. She was good at it, but every day felt hollow. She'd see Daniel sometimes across the building. In the elevator. At company-wide meetings. He'd nod politely, professionally. She'd nod back. And the distance between them felt like an ocean. Her mother noticed immediately. You're miserable. I'm fine. You're lying. Her mother set down her coffee. Baby, what happened? So Zara told her. About the feelings. About HR. About choosing the job over Daniel. And you think you made the right choice? Her mother asked. I think I made the smart choice. That's not what I asked. Zara's eyes filled with tears. I don't know anymore. On Friday of the second week, Marcus came to visit her at work. He'd gotten his basketball scholarship, full ride to Georgia Tech. He was celebrating by taking his sister to lunch. They were walking through the lobby when they ran into Daniel. The moment froze. Daniel's eyes met Zara's, and she saw everything she'd been trying not to feel reflected back at her. Longing, regret, loss. "Mr. Ashford," she said formally. "This is my brother, Marcus." Daniel's expression shifted, recognition dawning. "The brother who? Who has epilepsy, yeah," Marcus said, shaking Daniel's hand. "Zara told me about you. About how she saved your life. She didn't tell you she gave up a life-changing interview to do it?" Marcus looked at his sister. "You didn't tell me that part." "It worked out," Zara said quickly. "I got a better position anyway." "Did you?" Daniel asked quietly. The question wasn't about the job. Before Zara could answer, Marcus's phone buzzed. "Coach is calling. I gotta take this. Be right back." He stepped away, leaving Zara and Daniel alone in the crowded lobby. "How are you?" Daniel asked. "Fine. You?" "Terrible." He said it without inflection. "I can't sleep. Can't focus. Can't stop thinking about what I said. What you said. Whether I pushed too hard. Whether I should have fought harder." "Daniel, I resigned this morning." Her heart stopped. "What?" "From the CEO position. I gave the board my notice. 60 days and I'm done." "Why would you do that?" "Because you were right. About all of it. I was using work to avoid living. Building an empire to fill the void where relationships should be. I was becoming my father." He stepped closer, lowering his voice. "That day on the sidewalk, I wasn't just having a heart attack. I was having a breakdown. My body was forcing me to stop because I couldn't do it myself." "So you're quitting?" "No. I'm stepping back. Christine is taking over as CEO. She'll be better at it anyway. I'm keeping my seat on the board, staying involved in strategy. But I'm done with 18-hour days. Done sacrificing my life for a company that will replace me the day I die." Zara's throat tightened. "What are you going to do?" "Figure out how to live. Maybe travel. Maybe start that foundation I've been talking about. Maybe," he looked at her with painful honesty, "maybe find someone who makes me want to be better." "Daniel, you can't. I'm not doing this for you. I'm doing it for me. Because you taught me something important. Saving your own life matters just as much as saving someone else's." He paused. "But I'd be lying if I said you weren't part of the equation. That knowing you, working with you, falling for you, it didn't change everything." Marcus returned before she could respond. "Coach wants to meet tonight. Rain check on lunch, see?" "Yeah, of course." Marcus hugged her, shook Daniel's hand again, and left. The silence between them was deafening. "I should go," Daniel said. "I just wanted you to know that you were right, and that I'm grateful for everything." He turned to leave. "Wait," Zara heard herself say. He stopped. "Why did you really resign?" Daniel turned back, his eyes meeting hers. "Because I realized something. For 15 years, I chose work over everything. Over relationships. Over joy. Over the possibility of love. And when I met you, when I fell for you, I thought, maybe this time I can have both. Maybe I can keep the company and have you too." "But you can't," Zara whispered. "No. So I had to choose. And I chose the possibility of a life that means something. Even if that life doesn't include you. Because you taught me what it feels like to be seen. To matter to someone beyond what I can provide or produce. And I can't go back to not knowing that." Tears streamed down Zara's face. "I was so scared. I know. I didn't want to be the reason you gave up everything. You're not. I am. I'm choosing this. For me." He stepped closer. "But Zara, if you wanted to choose it too. If you wanted to take a chance on something real instead of something safe, I'd be there. Not as your boss. Not as someone you owe anything to. Just as a man who loves you and wants to build a life with you. What if it doesn't work? Then we'll have tried. And that's more than most people can say." She thought about her life before that morning on the sidewalk. The exhaustion. The invisibility. The constant survival. She thought about the past 2 weeks. The security. The safety. The hollow ache where joy should be. And she thought about her mother's words. "Don't let fear make you smaller than you are." "I'm terrified," she said. "Me too. I don't know how to do this. How to trust someone not to leave. Neither do I. But I'm willing to learn. If you are." Zara looked at him, really looked at him. Saw the vulnerability. The hope. The man who'd given up an empire because she'd shown him what actually mattered. And she made her choice. Okay, let's try. Let's be terrified together. Her voice cracked. Let's see if we can build something real." Daniel's smile was like sunrise. "Yeah, Yeah, but slowly, and carefully, and with a lot of communication, and he kissed her. Right there in the lobby of Ashford Enterprises, in front of everyone, he kissed her like she was oxygen and he'd been drowning. And Zara kissed him back, tasting salt from tears she couldn't stop, feeling something in her chest crack open and flood with light. When they finally broke apart, both breathless, she said, "That wasn't very professional. Good thing I'm not your boss anymore." She laughed, real, genuine laughter that felt like freedom. "What now?" she asked. "Now. We figure it out. Together. One day at a time." "I like the sound of that." "Me too." They stood there, hands intertwined, and Zara felt something she hadn't felt in years. Hope. Real, terrifying, beautiful hope. And for the first time in her life, she wasn't afraid of it. 6 months later, Zara stood in front of a classroom of 20 high school students, all of them from underserved neighborhoods in Atlanta, all of them wide-eyed and nervous. "I know what you're thinking," she said, smiling. "You're thinking you don't belong here. That programs like this aren't for people like you. That success is something that happens to other people." She walked between the desks. 2 years ago, I was working at a coffee shop, taking online classes, barely making rent. I'd applied for a job I was sure I'd never get, and when I got the interview, I thought it was my one shot. My only chance to change my life. The students leaned forward, listening. And then I saw a man having a heart attack on the street. And I had to choose, my future or his life. The interview that could change everything, or a stranger who needed help. She paused, letting the weight of that choice settle. I chose to help him. I missed my interview. And I thought I'd lost everything. "But you didn't," said a girl in the front row, Maria, scholarship recipient, future engineer. "No, I didn't. Because that man, Daniel Ashford," he remembered. "He found me. He gave me a second chance. And more than that, he taught me something important. Your worth isn't determined by credentials or connections. It's determined by who you are when it matters. By the choices you make when no one's watching." She gestured around the room. The new community center that had opened 3 months ago. The Ashford Bennett Foundation. Co-founded by her and Daniel. Funded by his wealth. Driven by their shared vision. Creating opportunities for kids who deserved a chance but couldn't afford one. This program exists because one act of kindness changed 2 lives. Mine and his. And now we want to change yours. Full scholarship. Mentorship. Internships. Everything you need to succeed. All you have to do is be willing to work hard and help others along the way. After the session, Zara found Daniel in the courtyard, talking with contractors about the expansion project. He looked different than he had a year ago. Healthier. His face had color. He laughed more. The tension that used to live in his shoulders had dissolved. "How'd it go?" he asked, pulling her into his side. "Good. They're eager. Smart. Remind me of me 2 years ago. Terrified and brilliant?" "Exactly." They walked through the center together, past classrooms where students studied coding, engineering, business. Past the community space where families gathered. Past the walls covered in photos of scholarship recipients, their success stories, their futures being written. "Your mother called," Zara said carefully. Daniel tensed slightly. "What did she want?" "To congratulate us on the expansion." "And to," Zara paused. "To apologize." Again. Daniel and Victoria's relationship was still complicated. Probably always would be. But they were trying. Family therapy. Regular dinners. Slow steps toward understanding. "I'll call her back," Daniel said. "She also asked if we'd set a date yet." He grinned. "Everyone's asking that. Even Marcus cornered me last week." Zara looked down at the simple ring on her finger. Not the sapphire from 6 months ago, but a new one. An engagement ring. Because 3 months ago, Daniel had proposed again. Properly this time. On the anniversary of the day she'd saved his life. "Marry me," he'd said. "Not because I'm grateful. Not because I owe you. But because I love you and I want to build a life with you. A real one. Messy and complicated and beautiful." She'd said yes without hesitation. "What if we did it here?" Zara said suddenly. "At the center. Small ceremony. Just family and the scholarship kids. Instead of some fancy venue, we have it in the place that represents what we're building together." Daniel stopped walking, looking at her with that expression that still made her heart race. "That's perfect. You're perfect. I'm really not. Perfect for me then." The wedding happened on a Saturday in late spring. Zara wore a simple white dress, elegant but not ostentatious. Daniel wore a suit but no tie. They stood in the courtyard of the center, surrounded by flowers planted by the students, under an arch built by Marcus and his college friends. Her mother cried through the entire ceremony. Victoria did too, surprisingly. But the best part was the students. 20 kids who'd been given a chance, now watching their mentors make a commitment to each other and to the work they'd started. I used to think success meant building an empire, Daniel said in his vows. Making money, proving my worth. But then I met a woman who showed me that worth isn't something you build. It's something you already have. You just have to be brave enough to recognize it. He looked at Zara. You saved my life twice. Once on a sidewalk when I was dying, and once in a parking garage when I was living but not alive. You taught me to stop, to see, to value what actually matters. And I promise to spend every day of our marriage honoring that lesson. Zara wiped tears from her face. I used to think safety meant protecting myself from risk, from pain, from the possibility of loss. But you taught me something better. Safety isn't the absence of risk. It's having someone who'll catch you when you fall, who'll choose you every day, who'll build something real with you even when it's scary. She took his hands. I choose you, today and every day. Not because you're rich or successful or because you gave me opportunities, but because you're kind, because you see me, because loving you makes me braver than I knew I could be. They kissed to cheers and applause. 1 year later, Zara sat in her office at the foundation, now expanded to serve 300 students across 5 Atlanta neighborhoods. Her PhD application to Georgia Tech sat on her desk, completed and ready to submit. Computer science, focus on algorithmic equity and access. She'd thought about this for months. About whether she could manage running the foundation and pursuing her doctorate. About whether it was too much. Then she'd talked to Daniel, who'd said simply, "Why not? We'll figure it out together." So she was doing it. Applying. Dreaming. Building a future that included everything she'd once thought impossible. Daniel appeared in her doorway. Ready to go? Where are we going? It's a surprise. He drove them to a familiar street. Parked in a familiar spot. The sidewalk where she'd found him dying. Why are we here? Zara asked. Daniel got out, walked to the exact spot where he'd collapsed. Zara followed. 2 years ago, I was lying here, convinced I was dying. Terrified. Alone. And then you appeared. This stranger who had every reason to keep walking. But you didn't. He turned to face her. That moment changed everything. Not just because you saved my life, but because it reminded me what it means to be human. To connect. To care about someone beyond what they can do for you. He pulled out an envelope. So I wanted to bring you back here. To thank you. Again. And to give you something. Zara opened the envelope. Inside was a deed. To the building across the street. The empty storefront that had been for sale for months. Daniel, what? It's for the foundation. Expansion space. Classrooms, computer labs, whatever you want. I bought it this morning. In your name. Because this place, this sidewalk where we met, it should be the beginning of something beautiful, not just a memory of near tragedy. Tears streamed down Zara's face. You didn't have to. Yes, I did. Because you gave me everything. My life. My purpose. My future. The least I can do is help you build the world you're dreaming of. She kissed him, right there on the sidewalk where it all began. I love you, she said. I love you too. So much it scares me. Good. We can be scared together. They stood there, hands intertwined, looking at the building that would become the next chapter of their shared vision. And Zara thought about the woman she'd been 2 years ago, exhausted, invisible, barely surviving. That woman wouldn't recognize her life now. PhD candidate. Foundation co-director. Wife to a man who saw her, valued her, chose her every day. All because she'd stopped to help a stranger. All because she'd chosen compassion over self-interest. All because she'd been brave enough to try again when the first chance didn't work out. What are you thinking? Daniel asked. That sometimes the universe rewards kindness. That sometimes taking the risk is worth it. That, she smiled. That I'm really glad I stopped that day. Me too. He kissed her forehead. Me too.
Thank you for watching this story to the end. If you enjoyed this story, you will surely love the next one. It's as crazier and more intriguing as you can ever imagine. So do check it out. Click on the image showing on your screen right now to watch the next one.